Commander Vexistar walked slowly through the control room of Nexus Prime. His green scales caught the blue light from dozens of screens that covered the walls. The space station was huge, bigger than most cities, and it watched over the edge of the Zalaxian Empire's territory. Nothing could get past without them knowing about it. At least, that's what everyone believed. The commander stopped at Lieutenant Krisanova's station. She was young for her rank, with bright yellow eyes that never missed anything on her screens. Her fingers moved quickly over the controls as she checked the sensor readings for the third time that hour. "Anything unusual today?" Vextar asked, his voice making a low rumble in his throat. "No, sir. Everything looks normal," Krisnova replied. But something in her voice made the commander look closer at her screen. The space around them looked empty. Stars dotted the darkness like tiny diamonds, and the familiar shapes of planets and moons showed up as small dots on the display. Trade ships moved along their regular routes, sending out the proper signals to identify themselves. Everything seemed peaceful, but Krisnova couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. 3 hours later, she saw it. A tiny blip on her screen that shouldn't be there. It appeared for just a second, then vanished. She blinked and looked again, but the screen showed nothing unusual. "Sensor glitch," she whispered to herself. These things happen sometimes. The equipment was old and space had strange effects on electronics. She made a note in her report and continued watching. The blip appeared again 20 minutes later. This time it lasted longer, maybe 3 seconds. Krisnova felt her heart beat faster. She ran a quick diagnostic on her equipment. Everything checked out perfectly. Far away, in the darkness of space, something moved. The USS Defiance cut through the void like a knife through black silk. The ship was enormous, stretching nearly 2 kilometers from bow to stern. Its hull was dark gray, almost black, covered with armor plating that could stop anything the galaxy could throw at it. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge watching the stars through the main view screen. He was a tall man with short brown hair and serious blue eyes. His uniform was clean and pressed, but his face showed the tiredness of someone who had been awake for too many hours. "How are we doing, Lisa?" he asked without turning around. "Chief." Engineer Lisa Brooks looked up from her console. She was a small woman with red hair tied back in a ponytail. Her hands never stopped moving over the controls, adjusting settings and monitoring the ship's systems. "The quantum displacement drive is working perfectly, Captain," she said. "We're phasing in and out of normal space every few seconds. Their sensors might catch a glimpse of us, but they won't be able to get a solid lock." Morrison nodded. The technology was new, so new that Earth had only finished testing it 6 months ago. It let the ship slip between dimensions, becoming almost invisible to normal sensors. The Defiance could appear on an enemy's screen for a moment, then vanish before they could figure out what they were seeing. "How much longer until we reach their detection grid?" Morrison asked. Navigator Ben Taylor checked his instruments. He was young, maybe 25, with black hair and quick hands. 15 minutes, sir. Once we cross that line, we'll be in their territory. No turning back after that." Morrison felt the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. Earth had been watching the Zalaxian Empire for years. They had seen world after world fall to the Empire's armies. Millions of people had been enslaved or killed. The Empire thought it ruled the galaxy, and no one had ever challenged them. Until now. "Remember, people," Morrison said to his crew, "we're not here to start a war. We're here to show them that humanity exists and that we won't be pushed around. But if they force our hand," he didn't need to finish the sentence. Everyone on the bridge knew what the Defiance could do. The ship carried weapons that could crack planets and shields that could stop anything the Empire had. But Morrison hoped they wouldn't need to use them. Back on Nexus Prime, Krisnova was getting worried. The mysterious blip was appearing more often now, and it was getting stronger. She had run every test she could think of, but her equipment kept telling her the same thing. Something big was out there, something that shouldn't exist. She called over sensor technician Mordak, an older soldier with scars on his face from the war against the Kelvin rebels. He looked at her screen and frowned. "What am I looking at?" he asked. "I don't know," Krisnova admitted. "It shows up for a few seconds, then disappears. But look at the size readings. Mordak's eyes went wide. According to the sensors, whatever was out there was huge, not just big for a ship, but bigger than anything in the Imperial fleet, bigger than their largest battleships. This has to be a mistake, Mordak said. Nothing that size could get this close without us seeing it. But even as he spoke, the blip appeared again. This time it stayed on the screen for almost 10 seconds, long enough for the computers to get a partial reading. Long enough to see that it was artificial, made by someone, not a natural object. Get Commander Vextar, Chris Nova said, her voice shaking. Get him now. The USS Defiance continued its silent approach. In the ship's war room, intelligence analyst Tom Walker studied maps of the Zalaxian Empire. He was a quiet man who saw patterns, where others saw chaos. His job was to understand their enemy, to know how they would react when humanity finally revealed itself. They've never faced a real challenge, Tom said to Captain Morrison. For 1,000 years, they've conquered everyone they've met. They think they're invincible. Good, Morrison replied. That means they won't be ready for us. Security Chief Nick Rodriguez checked his weapons one more time. He was a big man with steady hands and eyes that missed nothing. His job was to keep the crew safe no matter what happened next. Captain, Lisa Brooks called out. We're approaching the outer detection grid. Do you want me to increase our phase variance? Morrison thought for a moment. They could make themselves even harder to detect, but that would also make it harder to send their message when the time came. And they would need to send that message soon. Maintain current settings, he ordered. Let them see us. It's time. They knew we were here. The Defiance crossed into Zalaxian space like a ghost ship entering a harbor. Behind them lay Earth and everything they were fighting to protect. Ahead lay the unknown, and the most powerful empire the galaxy had ever seen. But Jake Morrison and his crew were ready. Humanity was about to announce itself to the galaxy, and nothing would ever be the same again. Commander Vexitar rushed to Lieutenant Chris Nova's station. His boots made heavy sounds on the metal floor as other officers turned to watch. The control room had gone quiet except for the soft hum of computers and the beeping of warning signals. Show me, Vexitar said, his voice tight with worry. Chris Nova pointed at her screen. The mysterious object appeared again, this time staying visible for almost 15 seconds. The computer worked hard to analyze what it was seeing, and the results made no sense. Sir, the readings show something 2 kilometers long, she said. The computer says it's made of metal and other materials we don't recognize. But that's impossible. Nothing that big could get this close without triggering every alarm we have. Vexitar stared at the numbers. In his 20 years of military service, he had never seen anything like this. The largest ships in the Imperial fleet were only half that size, and those ships took months to build with the work of thousands of people. Run a full diagnostic on all sensor equipment, he ordered. This has to be a malfunction. But sensor technician Mordak shook his head. Sir, I already checked everything twice. The equipment is working perfectly. Whatever is out there, it's real. The object vanished from the screen again, leaving only empty space, but now they knew where to look. Mordak adjusted the sensors, trying to pierce through whatever was hiding the massive ship. There, Chris Nova said suddenly. I'm getting energy readings, power sources, unlike anything in our database. Sir, the amount of energy that thing is putting out, it's like a small star. Vexitar felt cold fear creep up his spine. He had fought in 3 wars and seen the Empire's enemies try every trick they could think of. But this was different. This was beyond anything he had ever imagined. On the USS Defiance, Captain Morrison watched the tactical display. Red dots showed the location of Zalaxian sensors, and he could see them starting to focus on his ship's position. They're getting better at tracking us, Navigator Ben Taylor reported. The phase variance is still working, but they're learning to compensate. Morrison nodded. They had expected this. The stealth technology was good, but it wasn't perfect. And the Zalaxians weren't stupid. Given enough time, they would figure out how to see through the camouflage. How long until we reach their capital system? Morrison asked. 18 hours at current speed, Taylor replied. Chief Engineer Lisa Brooks looked up from her console. Captain, I'm reading increased scanning activity from their border stations. They know something is wrong even if they can't see us clearly. Morrison walked to the communication station where Lieutenant Amy Chen was monitoring Zalaxian radio traffic. She was young but smart, with a gift for languages that made her perfect for this mission. What are they saying? Morrison asked. They're confused and scared, Amy replied. The border station is reporting to higher command, but their officers don't believe what they're hearing. Some of them think it's enemy action, others think their equipment is broken. Morrison smiled grimly. Good. Confusion would work in their favor. Back on Nexus Prime, Commander Vextar was facing the hardest decision of his career. The readings were getting stronger and clearer. Whatever was out there was definitely artificial, definitely huge, and definitely heading toward the heart of the Empire. He opened a communication channel to Admiral Zethran, the station commander. The Admiral was an old soldier with gray scales and eyes that had seen too many battles. What's your status, Commander? The Admiral asked. Sir, we have detected an unknown vessel of unprecedented size, Vextar reported. It appears to be using some kind of stealth technology, but we're getting partial readings. Admiral Zethran's image flickered on the screen. How big? 2 kilometers long, sir. Possibly larger. The Admiral was quiet for a long moment. That's impossible. No one has the technology to build something that large. And certainly no one has stealth systems advanced enough to penetrate our defenses. Sir, I know how it sounds, but the readings are consistent. We have multiple sensors confirming the data. Send me everything you have, the Admiral ordered. I need to see this for myself. The data transfer took only minutes, but those minutes felt like hours to Vexatar. He watched the Admiral's face change as he studied the readings. Confusion turned to disbelief, then to something that looked like fear. This can't be right, Admiral Zethran said. Run the scans again, check everything. Sir, we've already run the scans 5 times. The results are always the same. The Admiral was quiet again. Then he spoke in a voice that seemed smaller than before. I'm sending this up the chain of command. Keep tracking that thing, and prepare for the worst. On the bridge of the Defiance, Morrison was reading reports from his officers. Every system was working perfectly. The crew was ready for whatever came next, but he knew the next few hours would be the most dangerous of their mission. Tom, he called to intelligence analyst Tom Walker. What do we know about their response protocols? Tom looked up from his data pad. According to our intelligence, they've never faced a threat like this. Their procedures are designed for dealing with rebellions and small raids, not unknown vessels, with superior technology. So they'll panic, Morrison said. Yes, sir. And panicked people make mistakes. Morrison hoped those mistakes wouldn't include starting a shooting war, but if they did, the Defiance was ready. Lieutenant Krisanova watched her screen as the mysterious object appeared and disappeared. Each time it showed up, the readings were a little clearer. She could see weapon ports along its hull, armor plating that looked incredibly thick, and energy shields that made their best defensive systems look like toys. Mordak, she called quietly. Look at these weapon signatures. The older soldier studied her screen and went pale. Those aren't in any of our databases. The power levels are off the charts. What kind of people could build something like this? Krisanova whispered. Before Mordak could answer, every alarm on the station began to sound. Red lights flashed, and a voice echoed through the corridors. All personnel to battle stations. This is not a drill. Commander Vextar received the order from Admiral Zethran. Mobilize every ship in the sector. Whatever was coming toward them, they would meet it with everything they had. But as he watched the readings from the unknown vessel, Vextar wondered if everything they had would be enough. On the Defiance, Morrison felt the moment when stealth became pointless. His ship was deep in enemy territory now, and there was no turning back. It was time to announce humanity's presence to the galaxy. Open a channel on all frequencies, he ordered. Communication Officer Kate Sullivan nodded. Channel open, sir. Morrison took a deep breath. The next words he spoke would change the course of galactic history. This is Captain Jake Morrison of the human vessel USS Defiance. We come seeking dialogue with your Empire's leadership. We are not here as conquerors, but as equals, who refuse to be ignored. The message went out across space, reaching every Zalaxian station and ship in the system. For the first time in over 1,000 years, someone was talking to the Empire as an equal. The silence that followed seemed to last forever. Then, chaos erupted across every communication channel as the Zalaxian Empire tried to understand what they were hearing. Humanity had just announced itself to the galaxy, and nothing would ever be the same. Emperor Zarthul sat on his golden throne in the heart of the imperial palace. His red scales gleamed under the bright lights, and his yellow eyes burned with anger. Around him, his advisors whispered nervously as they tried to make sense of the impossible message they had received. "Humans," the Emperor said, his voice echoing through the great hall. "I want to know everything about these creatures. How did they build a ship that our best scientists say cannot exist?" Intelligence Officer Quindal stepped forward. She was smaller than most Zalaxians, with dark green scales and quick movements. Her job was to know about every threat to the Empire, but she had almost nothing to report. "Your Majesty, we have very little information about humans," she admitted. "There are scattered reports from frontier worlds about strange bipedal creatures. Traders mention them sometimes, but always as curiosities, not threats." "Curiosities?" The Emperor's voice rose. "That curiosity just appeared in our space with a warship that makes our fleet look like children's toys." Quindal bowed her head. "The reports describe them as problem solvers, Your Majesty. They seem to find ways around obstacles that would stop other species. But no one thought they were capable of this level of technology." Emperor Zarthul stood, up from his throne. At full height, he was 3 meters tall, an impressive figure that had intimidated countless enemies. But today, he felt small and uncertain. "Where is Grand Admiral Velthos?" he demanded. "The 7th Imperial Fleet is moving to intercept the human vessel," an aide reported. 40 ships, including 3 dreadnoughts. The Admiral is confident they can handle any single ship, no matter how advanced." The Emperor hoped the Admiral was right, but something in his gut told him this would not be an easy victory. Grand Admiral Velthos stood on the bridge of his flagship, the massive dreadnought Eternal Glory. Around him, 40 of the Empire's best warships moved through space in perfect formation. Each ship carried enough firepower to destroy a city, and together they could level entire planets. The Admiral was old, with battle scars covering his dark blue scales. He had fought in dozens of wars and never lost a battle. Today would not be his first defeat. "Long-range sensors show the target ahead," his tactical officer reported. "Still using some kind of stealth system, but we can track it now." "Good," Velthos replied. "Signal the fleet. We will surround this human ship and demand its surrender. If they refuse, we will show them the price of challenging the Empire." But as they got closer, the sensor readings became more detailed. The human ship was even larger than the reports had suggested. Its hull was covered with armor plating that looked incredibly thick, and energy readings showed power systems beyond anything in their database. "Admiral," the tactical officer said quietly, "the power output from that ship is enormous. Their shields alone are generating more energy than our entire fleet." Velthos felt a chill of doubt, but he pushed it away. Numbers mattered in space combat. 40 ships against 1, no matter how advanced, should be an easy victory. On the USS Defiance, Captain Morrison watched the approaching fleet on his main screen. The Zalaxian ships looked impressive, but he knew appearances could be deceiving. 40 ships, Navigator Ben Taylor reported. 3 of them are dreadnought class. They're moving to surround us. "Let them come," Morrison said calmly. "Lisa, are our defensive systems ready?" Chief Engineer Lisa Brooks nodded. "All systems are operating at full capacity, sir. Our shields can handle anything they can throw at us." Weapons Officer Kate Sullivan checked her instruments. "All weapons, armed and ready, Captain. The main plasma cannon is charged and standing by." Morrison had hoped to avoid a fight, but the Empire seemed determined to test humanity's resolve. He would give them a demonstration they would never forget. Incoming. Transmission from the lead ship. Communication Officer Amy Chen reported. "Put it on screen," Morrison ordered. Grand Admiral Velthos appeared on the view screen, his scarred face twisted with authority and confidence. Human vessel, you are surrounded and outgunned. Surrender immediately or be destroyed. Morrison stepped forward so the Admiral could see him clearly. Admiral, I am Captain Jake Morrison. We came here to talk, not to fight. But if you insist on violence, we will defend ourselves. You have 1 ship against 40, Velthos replied. Your technology may be advanced, but you cannot win this battle. Morrison smiled, but it was not a friendly expression. Admiral, would you like a demonstration of what human technology can do? Before Velthos could answer, Morrison nodded to Kate Sullivan. Fire a warning shot. Target the small moon in this system. Aye, sir, Sullivan replied. Her fingers moved over the weapon, controls with practiced skill. The main plasma cannon of the Defiance charged with a sound like thunder. Energy gathered at the weapon's muzzle, creating a bright blue glow that could be seen from light years away. Then, with a flash that lit up space, the cannon fired. The beam of concentrated energy crossed the solar system in seconds. It struck the small moon that orbited the system's 4th planet, and the result was spectacular. The entire moon simply vanished, converted to energy and scattered particles in less than a heartbeat. On the bridge of the eternal glory, every officer stared in shock. The moon had been completely destroyed by a single shot from a weapon they didn't even know existed. Impossible, Velthos whispered. No weapon can generate that much power. His tactical officer's voice shook as he reported, Admiral, our sensors recorded the energy output of that shot. It was over 10,000 times more powerful than our largest guns. Velthos felt fear creep into his heart for the first time in decades. If the humans could destroy a moon with a single shot, what could they do to his fleet? Captain Morrison's voice came over the communication channel again, calm and steady. Admiral, that was our smallest weapon, fired at minimum power. We have no wish to harm you, but we will defend ourselves if attacked. I suggest you reconsider your position. The Maroon Salaxian fleet hung in space, paralyzed by the display of power they had just witnessed. Every ship's sensors had recorded the impossible, a weapon that could destroy worlds with a single shot. Admiral, Morrison continued, we offer you a choice. You can attack us and discover what our larger weapons can do, or you can allow us to continue to your capital world for peaceful negotiations. What will it be? Grand Admiral Velthos looked around his bridge at officers who had never known defeat. Their faces showed the same shock and fear he felt in his own heart. The Empire's greatest fleet had just been made to look like toys by a single human warship. All ships, he said slowly. Withdraw to safe distance. Do not engage the human vessel. Sir? His tactical officer asked in confusion. You heard me, Velthos replied. We are outmatched. Retreat. The Imperial fleet pulled back, leaving the USS Defiance free to continue its journey toward the capital world. On ships throughout the fleet, officers sent urgent messages to their commanders, trying to explain what they had witnessed. Emperor Zarthul received the reports in his throne room. His greatest admiral, the man who had never lost a battle, was retreating from a single enemy ship. The weapon demonstration had been recorded by dozens of sensors, but the Emperor could barely believe what he was seeing. They destroyed an entire moon, he said quietly, with one shot. Intelligence Officer Quindal nodded grimly. Your Majesty, if they can do that to a moon, they can do it to our planets, to our fleet, to anything they choose. The Emperor sat heavily on his throne. For the first time in 1,000 years, the Zalaxian Empire faced an enemy it could not defeat through force. The humans were coming to his capital world, and there was nothing he could do to stop them. Captain Morrison stood on his bridge, watching the retreating enemy fleet. The demonstration had worked perfectly. Now the Empire knew that humanity was not to be taken lightly. Set course for their capital world, he ordered, and prepare a diplomatic message. It's time to have a real conversation with Emperor Zarthul. The USS Defiance continued through space, carrying with it the future of human galactic relations. Behind them, an empire tried to understand how everything they thought they knew about power and technology had just changed forever. The USS Defiance appeared in the skies above Zalaxia Prime like a storm cloud blocking out the sun. The massive human battleship moved slowly through the planet's orbital defenses, which suddenly looked like toys compared to the alien vessel that had just arrived. On the planet's surface, 12 billion Zalaxians looked up at their sky and saw something that had never happened before. A foreign warship hung above their capital world, and their mighty fleet had been unable to stop it. Captain Jake Morrison stood on his bridge, looking down at the planet through the main view screen. The world was beautiful, with blue oceans and green continents covered in gleaming cities. But he knew those cities were filled with people who had built their civilization on the conquest of others. "Orbital defenses are tracking us," Security Chief Nick Rodriguez reported. 24 defense platforms, each one armed with heavy plasma cannons, but they're not firing. "They learned their lesson," Morrison replied. "After what happened to their fleet, they know better than to attack us." Chief Engineer Lisa Brooks monitored the ship's systems as they maintained orbit above the enemy capital. "All systems running smoothly, Captain. The quantum displacement drive is standing by in case we need to leave quickly." Morrison nodded. They were deep in enemy territory now, surrounded by potentially hostile forces. One wrong move could turn this diplomatic mission into the start of a galactic war. "Any response from the planet?" he asked. Communication Officer Amy Chen shook her head. "Nothing official yet, sir, but I'm monitoring their news broadcasts. The whole planet is in chaos. Some are calling for immediate attack, others want to negotiate. Their government seems paralyzed." In the Imperial Palace far below, Emperor Zarthol paced back and forth in his private chambers. His advisors had been arguing for hours, but no one could agree on what to do. The human ship hung above them like a sword, and everyone knew it, could destroy their world with a single shot. "We have to attack," General Kexmore insisted. He was the Emperor's military advisor, a scarred veteran who had never backed down from a fight. "If we show weakness now, every world in the Empire will think they can challenge us." "Attack with what?" Intelligence Officer Quindal replied. "They destroyed a moon with one shot. Our orbital defenses would be useless against them." Princess E. Nexara sat quietly in the corner, listening to the debate. She was young for a member of the royal family, with bright silver scales and intelligent green eyes. Unlike the others, she had been studying the intercepted human transmissions, trying to understand what these strange creatures really wanted. "Father," she said finally, "perhaps we should listen to what they have to say." Emperor Zarthol stopped pacing and looked at his daughter. "You think we should negotiate with them?" "They could have destroyed our fleet," Nexara replied. "They could have fired on our planet as soon as they arrived. But they haven't. They said they wanted to talk, and so far they've kept their word." General Kexmore made a sound of disgust. "They're waiting for us to show weakness. The moment we agree to negotiate, they'll know they've won without a fight." "Haven't they already won?" the princess asked quietly. "They're sitting above our capital with a weapon that can destroy worlds. What more do they need to prove?" The Emperor was quiet for a long moment. He had ruled the Empire for 30 years, and in all that time no one had ever challenged his authority. But now he faced a choice that could determine the fate of his entire civilization. "Send them a message," he said finally. "Tell them I will meet with their representative." On the Defiance, Morrison received the Emperor's response with relief. He had been prepared for a fight, but diplomacy was always the better option. "Ambassador Johnson," he called to his diplomatic officer. "You're up." Claire Johnson nodded and gathered her files. She was a small woman with gray hair and calm eyes that had seen many negotiations. But this would be the most important meeting of her career. "Tom," Morrison said to intelligence analyst Tom Walker, "what can you tell us about their emperor?" Tom consulted his datapad. "Zarthul has ruled for 30 years. He's known for being ruthless but practical. He's also never lost. A major conflict, this will be hard for him." "Good," Morrison replied. "Proud leaders make mistakes when they're backed into a corner, but they also know when they're beaten." The meeting was arranged to take place on a neutral space station hastily constructed for the occasion. It was a small structure, barely large, Enough for the two delegations, but it served its purpose. Emperor Zarthul arrived first, surrounded by his guards and advisors. He wore his finest robes and carried himself with the dignity of someone who ruled over 1,000 worlds. But Morrison could see the tension in his posture, the way his eyes kept looking toward the human battleship visible through the station's windows. When Morrison entered the meeting room, the two leaders faced each other for the first time. The Emperor was tall and imposing, his red scales gleaming under the lights. Morrison was smaller and seemingly less impressive, but he carried himself with quiet confidence. "So," the Emperor said, "you are the humans who have caused such trouble for my empire." "We are the humans who refuse to be ignored," Morrison replied calmly. "Your empire has been expanding for centuries, conquering world after world, but you've never encountered a species that could match your technology. And now we have," Zarthul said. "It wasn't a question." "Now you have," Morrison confirmed. "The question is, what do we do about it?" Ambassador Johnson stepped forward with a datapad containing humanity's proposal. "Your Majesty, we don't want to be your enemies, but we also won't be your subjects. We're offering a different kind of relationship." The Emperor took the datapad and scanned its contents. The terms were simple, but revolutionary. Recognition of humanity as an equal power, an end to imperial expansion into human territory, fair trade agreements and technology sharing. "You ask me to treat you as equals," the Emperor said finally. "We don't ask," Morrison replied. "We demand, and we have the power to enforce that demand." Princess Nexara leaned forward. She had been studying the human proposals with fascination. "Captain Morrison, your technology could benefit both our species. Imagine what we could accomplish working together instead of as enemies." Her father looked at her with surprise, but Morrison nodded approvingly. "The princess understands. We're not here to destroy your empire, we're here to change it." General Kexmore spoke up angrily. "The empire has never bowed to anyone. We will not start now." Morrison's expression hardened. "General, your fleet tried to stop us and failed. Your orbital defenses could not prevent us from reaching your capital. Your emperor sits here negotiating because he knows the alternative is the destruction of everything you've built." The room fell silent. Everyone understood the truth of Morrison's words, even if they didn't want to admit it. Emperor Zarthul looked out the window at the human battleship floating in space. A single ship had changed everything. His empire, which had seemed invincible just days ago, now faced its first real challenge in 1,000 years. "What guarantee do I have that you won't simply destroy us once we've agreed to your terms?" he asked. "The same guarantee you give us," Morrison replied. "Our word backed by our actions. We could have destroyed your fleet. We could have fired on your planet. Instead, we're sitting here talking." The Emperor was quiet for a moment, weighing his options. Then he looked at his daughter, who nodded encouragingly. "Very well," Zarthul said slowly. "Let us discuss terms." Ambassador Johnson smiled and opened her negotiation files. The first steps toward a new galactic order were about to begin, and humanity would have a voice in shaping the future of the galaxy. The negotiations lasted 3 days. Captain Morrison and Emperor Zarthul sat across from each other in the small meeting room, with their advisors watching every word. Through the windows, they could see the USS Defiance hanging in space like a constant reminder of humanity's power. Ambassador Claire Johnson spread the final treaty documents on the table. The papers represented weeks of careful work, turning ideas into laws that would govern relations between two civilizations. "The Terra-Zalaxia Accords," she announced. "The first treaty in galactic history where the Empire recognizes another species as an equal partner." Emperor Zarthul picked up the documents and read them one more time. His red scales had lost some of their shine over the past few days. The stress of negotiating with equals was something he had never experienced before. "These terms will change everything," he said quietly. "That's the point," Morrison replied. "Your empire has ruled through fear and conquest for 1,000 years. It's time for something different." Princess Nexara leaned forward eagerly. She had spent hours talking with the human delegation, learning about their technology and their way of thinking. Father, imagine what we could accomplish together. Their fusion technology could power our worlds for centuries. Their medicine could save millions of lives. General Kexmore made a sound of disgust from his corner of the room. We're giving up everything that made us strong. The other worlds will see this as weakness. The other worlds will see it as wisdom, Morrison countered. We're offering partnership, not domination. Your empire can continue to exist, but it must change how it treats other species. Intelligence analyst Tom Walker spoke up from behind. Morrison. General, your empire conquered through superior technology. Now you've met a species with even better technology. You can adapt or be destroyed. Those are your only choices. The Emperor was quiet for a long moment. Then he picked up a signing stylus and wrote his name at the bottom of the treaty. The sound of the stylus scratching on paper seemed very loud in the silent room. Morrison signed next, followed by Ambassador Johnson and Princess Nexara. The treaty was complete. It's done, the Emperor said. The Zalaxian Empire recognizes humanity as a sovereign species with equal rights and territory, and in return humanity offers defensive technology, medical advances, and fair trade agreements. Morrison added, "This is the beginning of a new era." Word of the treaty spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. On every world in the Empire, people gathered around communication screens to hear the impossible news. Their emperor, who had never bowed to anyone, had just signed a treaty with an unknown species. On the mining world of Kepler-7, the Draconian slaves looked up from their work as the announcement played over the loudspeakers. For the first time in decades, they saw hope in each other's eyes. If the mighty empire could be forced to negotiate, maybe change was possible for them too. In the laboratories of Centauri Station, Zalaxian scientists studied the technical data that humanity had shared as part of the treaty. The fusion reactor designs were centuries ahead of their own technology. The medical scanners could detect diseases that their best equipment couldn't even see. How did they advance so quickly? Dr. Villandra asked her research team. Their species only discovered space travel a few hundred years ago. Her assistant, a young scientist named Mortex, studied the human data with fascination. They think differently than we do. Look at this reactor design. Instead of trying to contain the fusion reaction with force, they guide it with magnetic fields. It's so simple, but we never thought of it. On the bridge of the USS Defiance, Morrison watched the planet below as news of the treaty spread. Crowds had gathered in the streets of the capital city, some celebrating and others protesting. Change was never easy, especially for a civilization that had known only conquest. "Sir," Communication Officer Amy Chen reported, "we're receiving messages from dozens of other species throughout the galaxy. They want to know if humanity will help them negotiate with the Empire too." Morrison smiled. "Tell them we'll consider it. But first, we need to get home and report to Earth Command." Chief Engineer Lisa Brooks prepared the quantum displacement drive for the journey home. "Captain, this mission was a complete success. We've established humanity as a major power in galactic politics." "More than that," Morrison replied. "We've shown that there's an alternative to conquest and domination. Maybe other species will follow our example." Navigator Ben Taylor plotted their course back to Earth. It would be a long journey, but they were carrying news that would change human civilization forever. Earth was no longer alone in the universe. They had allies, trading partners, and a voice in galactic affairs. As the Defiance prepared to leave, Princess Nexara sent a final message from the planet below. "Captain Morrison, thank you for showing us a different path. I will work to ensure that this treaty is just the beginning of positive change in our empire." Morrison replied personally. "Princess, change takes time and courage. You have both. Use them wisely." The USS Defiance activated its quantum drive and began to fade from normal space. The Zalaxian orbital defenses tracked them as they departed, but this time, there was no hostility. The human ship had arrived as an unknown threat, and was leaving as an ally. Emperor Zarthul stood in his palace looking up at the night sky where the human ship had been. General Kexmore stood beside him, still angry about the treaty. The other sector commanders are demanding explanations. the general reported. Some are talking about rebellion. Let them talk, the Emperor replied. They didn't see what I saw. They didn't face that ship and its weapons. Anyone who wants to challenge humanity can try, but they'll do it without my support. Princess Nexara joined them on the balcony. Father, I've been studying the human technology they shared with us. With their help, we could solve the energy crisis on the outer worlds. We could cure the plague that's been spreading through the Andorian system. And in return? The Emperor asked. We treat other species with respect instead of fear. We offer partnership instead of conquest. It's not weakness, Father. It's evolution. The Emperor looked at his daughter with new respect. Perhaps the young understood change better than the old. 3 months later, news reached Earth that the Calvarian rebellion had ended peacefully. The rebels had negotiated with the Empire using human diplomats as mediators. 2 more species had signed treaties similar to the Terra Xylaxia Accords. Morrison read the reports in his office at Earth Command. Through his window he could see construction crews working on new shipyards. Humanity was building a fleet that could defend their new position in galactic politics. His aide, Lieutenant Ryan Davis, brought him the latest intelligence reports. Sir, we're receiving requests for assistance from 17 different species. They all want help negotiating with various galactic powers. What's our response? Morrison asked. Admiral Stevens says we should be careful not to overextend ourselves. But the President wants to establish humanity as a force for peace in the galaxy. Morrison nodded. It was a big responsibility, but humanity had proven they could handle big challenges. The Defiance had returned to Earth as more than just a ship. It had become a symbol of humanity's emergence as a galactic power. The species that had once been considered a curiosity by frontier traders was now shaping the future of interstellar civilization. And in the depths of space, other civilizations watched and wondered if they too could find the courage to stand up to the powers that had oppressed them for so long. The galaxy was changing, and humanity had shown them that change was possible. The age of human diplomacy had begun, and nothing would ever be the same.
John Carter looked out the viewport as the diplomatic vessel approached Concordia Station. The massive structure floated in space like a glittering wheel, home to the Galactic Council, where over 200 alien species governed interstellar affairs. Lights from countless windows dotted its surface, and ships of various designs moved around it like busy insects. Quite a sight, isn't it? Lisa Novak said, stepping up beside him. Her dark hair was tied back in a neat bun, and though she wore a diplomatic uniform like his, John knew her background in special forces made her more than just his deputy. Hard to believe we're the first humans to serve here officially, John replied. He straightened his uniform jacket, feeling the weight of responsibility. Earth had only joined galactic society 30 years ago, and many species still viewed humans with suspicion. Concordia Station. This is Earth Vessel Harmony requesting docking clearance, the pilot announced over the comm system. A melodic alien voice responded immediately. Earth Vessel Harmony, you are cleared for approach to Diplomatic Dock 7. Welcome to Concordia. John took a deep breath. His appointment as Earth's first ambassador came after humanity's surprising victory in a border conflict with the Vex hegemony. The skirmish had been brief but revealed Earth's military capabilities, which had earned them respect and fear from the galactic community. Ready for this? Lisa asked quietly. As ready as anyone can be to represent 8 billion humans to a bunch of aliens who aren't sure if we're dangerous barbarians or promising newcomers, John said with a slight smile. The ship docked with barely a tremor. John and Lisa gathered with their small staff of 4, a cultural specialist, a xenobiologist, a legal advisor, and a communications expert. Together, they walked through the airlock into Concordia. 3 aliens waited for them. The central figure stood on 4 tentacle-like limbs, its blue skin glistening under the lights. To its left stood a tall, slender being with pale green skin and 4 arms. On the right was an entity that resembled a large insect with compound eyes and shimmering wings. Ambassador Carter, The blue alien spoke through a translator device. "I am Coordinator Ilara of the Merlani. On behalf of the Galactic Council, I welcome you and your staff to Concordia." John stepped forward and bowed slightly. "Thank you, Coordinator. We are honored to represent Earth in the Galactic Council." The insectoid being made a clicking sound before speaking. "I am Counselor Trith of the Arborians. Your species has caused quite a stir in a short time. We hope to show that humans can be valuable contributors to galactic peace." John replied diplomatically. The four-armed alien did not introduce itself but studied the humans with unblinking eyes. John noticed the red symbol on its chest, the mark of the Vex hegemony. The silence stretched uncomfortably before Ilara spoke again. "We have arranged a formal reception for tomorrow. Today, you will be shown to your quarters to rest and adjust to station time." As they followed their hosts through the grand corridors of Concordia, John noticed other aliens stopping to stare at the humans. Some looked curious, others seemed wary, and a few showed clear hostility. Lisa leaned close to him. "I count at least 12 species watching us right now. Not all of them look happy to see us." "We knew this wouldn't be easy," John whispered back. "Earth's victory against the Vex changed how we're perceived. Some see us as a threat now." Their quarters were spacious but clearly designed for non-human occupants. The furniture had been hastily modified to accommodate human physiology. After their guides left, Lisa checked the rooms thoroughly. "Basic surveillance devices in every room," she said quietly. "Nothing unexpected." John nodded. "And so it begins. Our first challenge isn't just to represent Earth. It's to convince 200 alien species that humans aren't the dangerous newcomers they fear we might be." Outside their window, the endless stars stretched into the distance, beautiful and cold. Somewhere out there was Earth, counting on them to secure humanity's place among the stars. 2 weeks had passed since John Carter's arrival at Concordia Station. He sat at a large round table in Chamber 12, surrounded by representatives from 17 different species. The air felt thick with tension as he finished his proposal. "And so, Earth suggests an open technology exchange program that would benefit all council members," John said, his voice steady despite the cold stares from several aliens across the table. Counselor Trith of the Arborians clicked his mandibles in what John had learned was a sign of approval. "The proposal shows wisdom. Shared knowledge advances all civilizations. Or it allows dangerous technologies to spread unchecked," countered Zrax, the Vex representative. His forearms moved in agitated patterns. "Humans have been in space for barely 3 decades. Their rush to join advanced technological discussions is concerning." John kept his expression neutral. "Earth doesn't claim technological superiority, Counselor Zrax. We simply offer a fresh perspective and our own innovations in return for learning from others." Several other representatives nodded, particularly the blue-skinned Merlani who had welcomed them on arrival. But John noticed how Zrax leaned over to whisper to the reptilian Drek ambassador, who then looked at John with narrowed yellow eyes. The meeting concluded with the proposal being sent to a review committee, a small victory. As John gathered his notes, Lisa Novak approached him. "That went better than expected," she said quietly. "Some of them are actually listening," John replied. "But Zrax is building opposition." They walked together through the curved corridors of the diplomatic wing. Aliens of various forms moved past them, some nodding in acknowledgement, others deliberately avoiding eye contact. "The Vex lost face when they failed to defeat Earth," Lisa said. "Zrax has been telling anyone who will listen that humans are unstable and violent by nature." John sighed. Ironic coming from a species that attacked our colony without provocation. Back in their quarters, John reviewed messages from Earth while Lisa prepared coffee. The artificial day cycle of Concordia was shifting toward evening, casting long shadows through their viewport. "Strange," Lisa said suddenly, pausing near the communications console. "What is it?" She pointed to a small device hidden behind a decorative panel. "That surveillance device wasn't there this morning. Someone's been in our quarters." John frowned. Council security does regular checks. They don't replace working devices, Lisa countered. She didn't disable it. That would alert whoever placed it. Instead, she made a note in her secure pad. Later that night, after John had fallen asleep, Lisa slipped out of her room. She wore a simple dark uniform without Earth insignia and carried a small scanner. Moving silently through the dimly lit corridors, she began a careful sweep of their section. Near the maintenance access, she detected a signal. Someone was transmitting data from their quarters. Following the signal, she turned a corner and nearly collided with a tall figure. The vexed diplomat's aide stepped back, clearly startled to find a human there. "You're far from the human section," he said, his translator making his voice sound flat. "I couldn't sleep. Walking helps," Lisa replied casually, hiding her scanner. "The station is beautiful at night." The aide studied her for a moment. "Indeed. But some areas can be unsafe for newcomers who don't understand station protocols." "Thanks for the warning," Lisa said, reading the implied threat clearly. The next morning, as John prepared for a meeting with the Merlani trade representatives, Lisa quietly checked their communications for tampering. "We have a problem," she said finally. "Someone accessed our secure channel to Earth during the night." John looked up sharply. "What did they get?" "Nothing critical. The encryption held, but they're getting bolder." She handed him her pad with a list of incidents: new surveillance devices, followed staff members, and attempted data breaches. John studied the list with growing concern. "They're afraid of us. But why this much effort for a new species with limited influence?" "Because your technology exchange proposal gained more support than they expected," Lisa said. "I've seen the voting projections. If the Arborians and Merlani vacuum, along with the neutral factions." John nodded slowly. "We could actually win our first major proposal. And some people on this station clearly don't want that to happen," Lisa finished, looking out at the stars beyond the viewport. Somewhere among them, unseen dangers were gathering. Councillor Zrax paced around the secure meeting room. 6 other council members watched him in silence. The room was located in an old section of Concordia Station that didn't appear on public maps. No recording devices were allowed inside. "The human proposal has gained too much support," Zrax said, his 4 arms moving in angry gestures. "If they succeed, Earth will have direct access to technologies that took our civilizations centuries to develop." Drell, the reptilian Drek representative, flicked his tongue nervously. "Their victory against your forces was concerning. Humans adapt quickly to new situations." "Too quickly," added Moxon of the Sirthi Collective. The small, gray-skinned alien rarely spoke in full council meetings, but here among trusted allies, she expressed her fears openly. "Our models predict that with access to advanced council technology, humans could reach military parity with mid-tier council races within 15 years. The 7 conspirators represented different species and factions, but they shared one belief: humanity was dangerous and needed to be contained before it was too late." "What do you propose?" asked Grath, a massive being with stone-like skin. "We cannot simply reject their proposal without cause. The Arborians and Merlani support them." Zrax's outer eyes narrowed. "Then we must give the Council a reason to reject not just the proposal, but Earth's presence entirely." He projected a holographic image in the center of the room. It showed John Carter meeting with various council representatives over the past weeks. Ambassador Carter is their strength. His diplomatic skills have won unlikely allies. If something were to happen to him, Pilax, a bird-like alien with iridescent feathers, tilted her head. "The humans would send another ambassador. Not if his death created a diplomatic crisis that justified restrictions on human movement," Zrax countered. "Especially if it appeared that radicals from another species were responsible." The room fell silent as the conspirators considered the plan. "The Krith separatists have attacked council facilities before," suggested Drell. "If evidence pointed to them, the council would demand sanctions against both the Krith and humans for bringing violence to Concordia," Moxon finished. We could implement emergency protocols restricting Earth's access to Council space. Zrax displayed another image. Detailed security plans for the upcoming Council reception. The event will be crowded, security stretched thin. The perfect opportunity. The conspirators spent hours finalizing their plan. None noticed the small maintenance drone that had briefly passed by the supposedly secure room earlier, its standard scanning equipment modified to detect fragments of their conversation. Meanwhile, Lisa Novak sat in her private quarters, reviewing data from her security suites. The small drone she had programmed to patrol the diplomatic wing had returned with concerning audio fragments. Though incomplete, the recordings contained enough to raise serious alarms. Ambassador Carter is their strength. If something were to happen to him, create a diplomatic crisis. Emergency protocols restricting Earth. Lisa couldn't identify all the voices, but she recognized Zrax's distinctive vocal pattern. She encrypted the findings and prepared a secure transmission to Earth Command, carefully avoiding the compromised main communication system. She debated whether to tell John about the threat. His diplomatic mission was at a critical stage. The technology exchange proposal would be voted on in just 3 days after the grand reception. Telling him about a possible assassination plot with incomplete evidence might disrupt his focus. Lisa made her decision. She would enhance security measures without alarming John, while requesting quiet support from Earth. She added a special code to her transmission, one that only a few people in Earth Command would recognize, a reference to her previous work in classified operations. The code phrase was simple: Baba Yaga Protocol. After sending the message, Lisa erased all traces of it from the system and went to find John. He was preparing notes for tomorrow's pre-vote meetings, looking tired but optimistic. "How are the security arrangements for the reception?" he asked without looking up. "Standard procedures," Lisa replied calmly, not revealing her concerns. "I've made a few minor adjustments to our personal security." John nodded, still focused on his work. "Good. This reception could be the final push we need to secure votes for the proposal." Lisa looked out at the stars beyond their viewport. "It will certainly be a turning point," she said quietly, checking the small defensive weapon hidden beneath her uniform. One way or another. The grand reception hall of Concordia Station glittered with lights. Hundreds of representatives from across the galaxy mingled beneath a transparent dome that revealed the star-filled blackness of space. Soft music played from hidden speakers, a careful blend of sounds from many worlds. John Carter moved through the crowd in his formal Earth uniform. He smiled and nodded to various council members, many of whom now acknowledged him with something close to respect. His technology exchange proposal had gained more support than anyone expected. "The vote tomorrow looks promising," said Councillor Trith of the Arboretans, approaching with a glass of blue liquid in his mandible-like grasp. "Your proposal has merit, Ambassador." "Thank you, Councillor. Earth hopes to be a valuable contributor to shared knowledge," John replied. Across the room, Lisa Novak watched carefully. Her dark formal uniform concealed several defensive tools. Her eyes constantly scanned the crowd, noting the positions of various council security forces, and more importantly, where they weren't. "You seem tense, Deputy Novak," said a voice beside her. Coordinator Ilara of the Merlani approached with graceful movements. "Is our security inadequate?" "Not at all," Lisa said smoothly. "Just have it. The ambassador attracts attention." "Indeed he does," Ilara agreed. "More than expected for a newcomer to the council. Not everyone appreciates his success." Before Lisa could respond, the lights flickered briefly. She immediately moved toward John, her instincts screaming danger. Something was wrong. In the control room several levels below, a technician fell silently as a dart struck his neck. A figure in maintenance coveralls quickly accessed the security systems, disabling several surveillance zones and locking mechanisms. Back in the reception hall, 3 servers approached different areas of the room. They appeared to be different species, but all moved with the same purposeful stride. One headed directly toward John Carter, who was now speaking with a group of minor representatives. Lisa reached John just as the lights flickered again. She grabbed his arm, her voice low but urgent. "We need to move. Now." John gave her a questioning look, but years of diplomatic training had taught him to trust his security staff. He nodded and began to excuse himself from the conversation. The server approaching them suddenly dropped his tray. As glasses shattered on the floor, the server's hand emerged with a small weapon. Lisa shoved John aside just as a dart whizzed past. She drew her own concealed stunner in one fluid motion and fired. The false server dropped, but screams now erupted from two other locations in the hall. "Attack! Security breach!" Someone shouted. Council security forces rushed in various directions as panic spread. Lisa pushed John toward a service exit, staying between him and the chaos. "Stay low," she ordered. A second attacker appeared from behind a decorative column. This one carried a more lethal weapon, a pulse gun illegal in council space. Lisa fired again, but missed as the attacker dove for cover. John stumbled as the attacker's shot grazed his shoulder. Pain flared through his arm. "Lisa!" he gasped. She pulled him through the doorway, firing back to cover their retreat. Blood soaked John's uniform as his face paled. The wound wasn't immediately fatal, but he needed medical attention soon. "Security channels are jammed," Lisa said, checking her communicator as they hurried down the service corridor. "We need to reach our quarters. I have medical supplies and secure communications there." John's breathing grew labored. "Not an accident," he managed to say. "No," Lisa agreed grimly. "This was planned. Someone wants you dead and wants to blame it on extremists." They reached a maintenance elevator. Lisa used her security override to activate it, then supported John's weight as he sagged against her. "Earth needs to know," he said, his eyes growing unfocused. "They already do," Lisa told him, checking the wound as the elevator descended. "Help will come. But first, we need to survive until it arrives." On Earth, Fleet Admiral Eric Daniels sat in his secure office, staring at the emergency communication he'd just received from Concordia Station. His face grew grim as he read the code phrase embedded in Lisa's message. "Baba Yaga Protocol," he murmured. He pressed a button on his desk. "Prepare the Nightingale for immediate departure. Priority Alpha. And get me Commander Wright." The aide looked startled. "Sir, Commander Wright is." "I know exactly where she is," Daniels interrupted. "Tell her it's time to wake up. The Baba Yaga is needed." The Concordia Station Emergency Council meeting erupted in chaos. Representatives shouted over each other, while security forces stood at high alert around the chamber. "This violent attack proves what I have said about humans," Zrax declared, his four arms raised for attention. "They bring conflict wherever they go." Ambassador Carter was the victim, not the cause, countered Ilara of the Merlani. The blue-skinned diplomat's voice remained calm despite the tension. Councillor Trith clicked his mandibles in agreement. "The evidence suggests Krith separatists. Why blame humans for being attacked?" Zrax's outer eyes narrowed, perhaps to create sympathy, to distract from their aggressive technology proposal. In the human diplomatic quarters, now under guard by both human staff and council security, Lisa Novak watched the emergency meeting on a screen. John Carter lay in a medical pod, sedated while the automated system repaired his shoulder wound. His face looked pale against the white sheets. Lisa turned as one of her staff entered. "Any word from Earth?" "Yes," the communications officer replied quietly. "A message just arrived through emergency channels. The medical ship Nightingale has been dispatched. Estimated arrival in 26 hours. Lisa nodded. The medical ship was their cover story, but she knew what, or rather who, would really be on board. She turned back to the screen where the council continued to argue. For safety, all humans should be restricted to their quarters until this matter is resolved. Drell of the Drek was saying, his reptilian features set in a false expression of concern. And the trade proposal vote should be postponed indefinitely. added Moxon of the scifi. Lisa could see the conspiracy unfolding exactly as planned. With John injured and humans isolated, Earth's growing influence would be cut off. She needed to find proof of the plot before the conspirators could complete their plan. On Earth, a small, sleek ship launched from a hidden facility. The Nightingale bore medical insignia and flew Earth colors, but its hull contained special stealth materials, and its engines were more advanced than anything Earth officially acknowledged having. In the ship's preparation room, Commander Olivia Wright checked her equipment. Her dark hair was cut short, and her face showed no expression as she methodically went through each item. Her body bore subtle signs of enhancement, not obvious cybernetics, but something more integrated, more advanced. "Mission parameters, Admiral," she asked as Daniels entered the room. "Extraction and evidence gathering," he replied. "Ambassador Carter has been attacked. Lisa Novak invoked the Baba Yaga Protocol. We believe 7 council members conspired to assassinate our ambassador and blame it on Krith separatists." Olivia nodded once. "Alive or dead?" "Alive if possible. We need evidence of their conspiracy to present to the full council. This is about justice, not revenge." "Understood." Her voice held no emotion, but her eyes showed focus. "Any specific targets identified?" "Zrax of the Vex hegemony appears to be the ringleader. Novak's intel suggests the Drek, scifi, and 4 others are involved." Daniels handed her a secure datapad. "Full details here. Memorize and destroy." Back on Concordia, the Council passed emergency measures restricting human movement on the station. 2 guards now stood outside the human diplomatic quarters. Inside, Lisa continued gathering what evidence she could, but most of her surveillance drones had been discovered and destroyed. She sat beside John's medical pod, speaking softly though he remained unconscious. "Help is coming. Just hold on." Her secure pad chimed with an alert. The station's long-range sensors had detected an approaching ship, the Nightingale, arriving 12 hours ahead of schedule thanks to capabilities Earth had kept hidden. Lisa allowed herself a small smile. "They're coming faster than expected," she told John. "The Baba Yaga is on her way." Meanwhile, in a secret meeting room, the 7 conspirators gathered again. "The attack failed," Zrax said angrily. "Carter lives." "But we achieved our primary goal," Drell pointed out. "Humans are contained, their proposal blocked." "For now," Moxon cautioned, "we should prepare for Earth's response. They will send investigators." Zrax dismissed her concerns with a wave of his hand. "Let them send whoever they wish. By the time they arrive, we will have controlled the narrative completely." None of them realized that Earth's response was already approaching, and that the hunter they had inadvertently awakened would soon be among them. The Nightingale docked at Concordia Station under heavy guard. Council security forces surrounded the medical ship, weapons ready. After the attack on Ambassador Carter, all Earth vessels were treated with suspicion. A team of 6 humans in medical uniforms exited the ship. Their leader, a gray-haired doctor, faced the security chief, a tall Drek with scales that shimmered under the dock lights. "We are here to treat Ambassador Carter," the doctor stated firmly. The Drek officer inspected their credentials and equipment with obvious distrust. "You may proceed to the human quarters. 2 of my officers will escort you." The medical team moved through the station corridors, their cases of supplies floating on gravity sleds behind them. None of the security officers noticed that the team now numbered 5, not 6. Commander Olivia Wright moved silently through a maintenance shaft she had entered while the guards were distracted by the doctor's credentials. The shaft was barely large enough for her slender frame. Her black stealth suit absorbed light, and special materials masked her heat signature from thermal scanners. Olivia had memorized Concordia's complete layout during the journey from Earth. The maintenance system was a maze of tunnels connecting all parts of the station. Security rarely patrolled these areas, trusting automated systems instead. Systems that, right now, were experiencing unexplained glitches near her position. She reached a junction and paused, checking her wrist display. The first target was Counselor Moxon of the scifi Collective. The small gray alien was perhaps the weakest link in the conspiracy. According to Lisa Novak's intelligence, Moxon had seemed hesitant during recent emergency council sessions. In the human diplomatic quarters, Lisa received the medical team with relief. John Carter was awake now, but weak, his shoulder wrapped in healing bandages. "Admiral Daniels sends his regards," the gray-haired doctor said quietly to Lisa as the others tended to John. Lisa nodded, his everything proceeding as planned. "Our additional passenger disembarked successfully," the doctor confirmed. "Initial operations have begun." John watched them from his bed. "Lisa, what's happening?" She moved to his side. "Earth sent help, John. More than just medical help." His eyes widened slightly. "The Baba Yaga protocol. That wasn't just a fever dream." "No," Lisa said. "Commander Wright is on the station." "Wright?" John frowned. "I've never heard of her." "Very few have. That's the point." Meanwhile, Counselor Moxon entered her private quarters after a long council session. The scifi representative felt uneasy. The attack on the human ambassador hadn't gone as planned, and now the other conspirators were pushing for even harsher measures against Earth, measures that might lead to conflict. She froze as her door closed behind her. Something was wrong. The room was exactly as she had left it, but an instinct older than her civilization warned of danger. "Hello, Counselor," said a quiet voice from the shadows. Moxon turned slowly. A human female sat in a corner chair, unarmed and relaxed. Impossible. Humans were restricted to their quarters. "How did you?" "Security systems can be fooled," Olivia said simply. "We need to talk about the plot against Ambassador Carter." Moxon backed toward her alarm panel. "I don't know what you mean." "7 conspirators," Olivia continued as if Moxon hadn't spoken. "You, Zrax, Drell, and 4 others. You planned the assassination and are now using the failed attempt to isolate Earth from the Council." Moxon's hand froze before reaching the alarm. "How could you possibly know that?" "I know many things, including the fact that you had doubts. You wanted to contain Earth's influence, not start a war." The scifi counselor's large eyes blinked rapidly, a sign of stress in her species. The others pushed for more aggressive action. "I just wanted to slow human advancement." Olivia leaned forward slightly. "You have a choice now, Counselor. Help me expose this conspiracy, or face Earth's justice alone." Across the station, security officers discovered the first accident. A guard outside Counselor Drell's quarters was found unconscious, with no memory of what had happened. Inside, they found the Drek representative's quarters empty, though he had entered 10 minutes earlier. Meanwhile, all screens throughout the diplomatic wing briefly flickered, displaying a strange symbol before returning to normal. The symbol was simple but unsettling, a stylized house with chicken legs. Only Lisa Novak recognized it and smiled. The Baba Yaga was hunting. Panic spread through Concordia Station. In just 24 hours, 3 council members had disappeared, only to be found locked in maintenance closets with no memory of how they got there. Security systems failed in seemingly random patterns, and most disturbing of all, private messages between the conspirators had somehow been leaked to various council representatives. Zrax paced in his quarters, all 4 arms twitching nervously. 2 of his personal guards stood by the door, weapons ready. The Vex representative had tripled his security, yet still felt exposed. "No one enters without my direct approval," he ordered the guards. No one. His communication console chimed. Zrax approached it cautiously and activated the screen. Counselor Drell's reptilian face appeared, his scales pale with stress. "They know everything," Drell hissed. "Someone is hunting us one by one." "Calm yourself," Zrax replied, though he felt anything but calm. "Our allies in security are searching the station. They will find this human intruder." "Human." Drell's tongue flicked out nervously. "How do you know it's human?" Before Zrax could answer, the lights in his quarters flickered. The communication screen went black, then displayed a single image, the now familiar symbol of a house with chicken legs. Zrax backed away from the console. "Guards!" he shouted. No response came. He rushed to the door and found his guards unconscious on the floor, a faint smell of strange chemicals in the air. "Looking for someone," a quiet voice asked from behind him. In the main council chamber, an emergency session had been called. Representatives from all member species gathered, their voices a mix of confusion and accusation. Station security had proven unable to explain the strange events, and rumors spread wildly. "Order," called the council elder, an ancient arborean whose brittle exoskeleton showed great age. "We must maintain order." The chamber quieted as the massive doors swung open. Lisa Novick entered, supporting John Carter, who walked slowly, his arm in a healing sling. The human ambassador looked pale but determined. "Ambassador Carter," the elder acknowledged, "we did not expect you to attend in your condition." "Some matters are too important to miss," John replied, his voice steady despite his weakness. Lisa helped him to the human delegation's seat, then took position behind him, her eyes constantly scanning the room. "We have called this session to address the security failures on Concordia," the elder began. "Security failures?" John interrupted. "Is that what we're calling an assassination attempt and its aftermath?" Murmurs spread through the chamber. Several representatives looked uncomfortable. "Perhaps security incident would be more diplomatic," suggested a representative from a minor species. John shook his head. "I believe in calling things by their true names, and I believe this body deserves to know the truth about what happened." "What truth?" challenged a Vex delegate, standing in for the missing Drax. "We all know Krith separatists attacked you." "Do we?" John asked. He nodded to Lisa, who activated the small device. All screens in the chamber suddenly changed to display a single feed. The image showed Drax, seated in what appeared to be a storage room. He looked frightened, all four arms bound behind him. "Play the confession," Lisa instructed her device. On screen, Drax began to speak. "I, Counselor Drax of the Vex Hegemony, confess to orchestrating the attack on Ambassador Carter with 6 other council members. We feared Earth's growing influence and planned to use the assassination to justify restrictions on human activities in council space." Gasps and shouts filled the chamber as Drax named his co-conspirators. The evidence was damning. Recorded planning sessions, financial transfers to the assassins, and communications proving the entire plot. As the recording ended, the chamber doors opened again. A human woman in a simple black uniform entered, her face expressionless. Behind her walked Counselor Moxon of the Sirthi, looking nervous but resolved. "Who are you?" demanded the elder. "My name is Commander Olivia Wright," she replied calmly. "Earth's response to those who attacked our ambassador." The room fell silent. The legend of Baba Yaga had spread through the station, and now she stood before them, neither threatening nor apologetic. Simply present, like justice itself. 3 weeks later, John Carter stood at the center of the council chamber. His shoulder had healed, and he wore a fresh diplomatic uniform with Earth's emblem displayed proudly. The chamber was packed with representatives from every council species, the move solemn but expectant. "Ambassador Carter," the council elder spoke, "you have the floor." John looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of various representatives. The 7 conspirators' seats remained empty. They were being held in council custody awaiting trial for conspiracy and attempted murder. "Thank you, Elder," John began. 3 weeks ago, members of this council tried to kill me. They feared Earth's growing influence and what our technology exchange proposal might mean for the balance of power. Murmurs rippled through the chamber, but no one interrupted. They believed humans were dangerous, too aggressive, too quick to advance. John paused. In their response to this fear, they proved something important about themselves, not about humanity. The chamber grew still. When faced with a perceived threat, these 7 chose conspiracy, deception, and murder. Given the same situation, Earth chose justice, precision, and truth. John's voice remained calm, but carried to every corner of the room. We did not respond with warships. We did not demand vengeance. Several representatives nodded in agreement. The Merlani and Arborians, Earth's strongest allies, looked pleased. Instead, we sent one person, one highly skilled individual who gathered evidence and exposed the truth without a single death. Not even those who tried to kill me. John smiled slightly. Some might say that shows remarkable restraint for such a dangerous species. Lisa Novak stood at the back of the chamber, watching the proceedings with satisfaction. Beside her was Commander Olivia Wright, now dressed in a formal Earth uniform for the occasion. Her mission complete, she would return to Earth today. Earth still believes in the proposal that so frightened the conspirators, John continued. We still wish to exchange technologies and knowledge with the Council races. But now, we also ask for a complete review of Council security and voting procedures to prevent such conspiracies in the future. The Elder clicked his mandibles in the Arborian gesture of approval. The Council has already begun this process. Ambassador, your commander writes, methods revealed concerning weaknesses in our systems. Olivia's expression remained neutral, though Lisa smirked slightly beside her. And what of Earth's proposal? John asked. The technology exchange that started all this. The Elder gestured to the voting display. The Council has reconsidered your proposal with the new evidence in mind. The vote stands at 173 in favor, 30 against, with 12 abstentions. Your proposal passes with overwhelming support. Applause spread through the chamber. John bowed his head in acknowledgement. Later, in the diplomatic dock, John and Lisa stood with Olivia as she prepared to board her ship back to Earth. I owe you my life, John said simply. Olivia shook her head. You owe me nothing. I followed orders. Will you return to wherever you were before this? John asked carefully. Yes, Olivia replied. Until needed again. Lisa extended her hand to her former colleague. The Baba Yaga returns to her forest. A rare smile flickered across Olivia's face. The bougie man goes back under the bed. They watched as she boarded the small, unmarked ship. Unlike the medical vessel that had brought her, this craft bore no Earth insignia or identifiers. It would take a roundabout path home, ensuring no one could track its route. As the ship detached from the dock, Lisa's secure pad chimed with an encrypted message from Admiral Daniels. Baba Yaga returning to hibernation. Mission complete. John looked out at the stars beyond the station. Do you think they understand now what it means to provoke Earth? Lisa watched the small ship disappear into the darkness of space. They understand that we're not the mindless aggressors they feared, but they've also learned something more important. What's that? That humanity doesn't need overwhelming force to be feared, she smiled. Sometimes, all we need is one person in the right place, at the right time. John nodded, turning back toward Concordia Station, where the Council awaited Earth's new technological contributions, and the wisdom to know when to unleash them.